This is David here to show you guys another build video. One of my favorite builds actually. It uses a TIE Phantom and two TIE Aggressors, and I'm gonna bring up the TIE Phantom again. So this ship is my favorite ship in all of X-Wing. Probably because just the way it looks, and also if we look at its action bar here, so it's got focus, barrel roll, evade, and then cloak. This was the first ship in the game to have this action, and this enables the ship to gain 2 agility dice, so 4 defense dice, but you cannot attack with it, and that's a very important thing when using the TIE Phantom, is taking advantage of that cloaking mechanic. And the crux of this build is the TIE Phantom. And there's another thing about this build. One of my favorite things about it, or other than it has a Phantom, is that this build can roll up to 27 dice in a single turn, which is quite a lot of damage that can be dealt. But an important thing to remember is this build has a total health of 14 chips. So it's a little bit of a glass cannon, and this can do good against other small ship builds, but against some larger ships, it's a numbers game, and this is a bit squishy, and this build to pull off is probably intermediate to advanced level build. But if you're just starting out, this is something that's still really fun, and I mean, it's got a Phantom in it, which, I mean, I think it's the greatest ship in the game, coolest ship in the game, so might as well try it out. Perfect practice makes perfect, so you won't get good unless you keep trying to fly a Phantom, and then hopefully in a short time, but probably after it'll take a couple of games to really get down the cloaking mechanic, but once you do, it becomes a pretty powerful tool. And so in this build, I have Whisper as the pilot, and he's pilot skill 7, and as you can see, there's the action bar, and he can take a elite pilot talent, a comms array, radar dish, I don't remember the name of it, but there it is, and he has a crew slot, and he is 32 points base, and he has the same stat line as all other aggressors: 4 attack dice, 2 evade dice, 2 health, and 2 shields. And for his elite pilot talent, I give him veteran instincts, making him pilot skill 9, advanced cloaking device, which is TIE Phantom only modification, costs 4 points, and after he attacks, he may perform a free cloak action. And important to note, free action, because that means if he's stressed, you can't do this. And there's Gunner, and simply put, this card allows you to attack again if your first attack does not hit. And Fire Control System, which after he attacks a target, he gains a target lock. And I forgot to mention this, but Whisper's pilot ability is that after attack hits, he gets a free focus token assigned to him, which again is very important. So that's the Phantom, just his cards, and I'm going to explain all the other cards in this game, in this build. Not in the game, that would take a while. But yeah, all the other cards and pilots in the build, and then I will go through how it works and some very important points about flying the TIE Phantom, just in general, but especially in this build. So the next pilot I include is Double Edge, and once per round after he performs an attack, if it misses with a secondary weapon, if it's a secondary weapon attack, such as like rockets or a turret attack, he can attack again with a different weapon. And he has 19 points base. He has 2 attack, 2 agility, and 4 hull and 1 shield, so total of 5 health. And I usually load him out with just unguided rockets, a twin laser turret, and lightweight frame. And I was thinking about it before, and another strong option is Intensity. This is a 2-point elite pilot talent that allows you to, after you perform a boost or a barrel action, you may assign 1 focus or evade token to your ship, and then you have to flip this card. Okay, so to the other side, which is exhausted, and basically you have to spend a focus or evade token to flip it back up. And so this just helps the TIE Aggressor be more survivable, which is pretty important in this build, because the TIE Aggressors help support the Phantom, because either the chances are they'll go for the Phantom, especially because this build's been around for a while, this loadout for Whisper has been around for a while. So if they've been going to tournaments for a while, they probably know about this build, and so they're going to try and go for Whisper right off the bat, so you need to try and keep them safe. But then these two TIE Aggressors are going to be, so it kind of places them between a rock and a hard place. So they either are pursuing the Phantom and then getting shot at range by TIE Aggressors with TLTs, so that's four damage combined between the two of them a turn. Or if they're going after the Aggressors, then they're ignoring the Phantom and leaving themselves open to a possible 12 dice attack. And that's possible because natively it rolls 4, and then Gunner allows him to attack again with those 4 dice, and Fire Control System allows you to spend the target lock you just got. And so again, you can roll up to 12 dice with this build for Whisper, which is why if you see Whisper, I feel like this is a pretty common loadout that players try to use. And I didn't go through the cards, but I'll do that real quick for these. So Twin Laser Turret, if you're unfamiliar with how it works, you roll 3 dice, and it's range 2 to 3 attack. Costs 6 points, but you roll 3 dice, and then if the attack hits, you deal 1 damage. You can attack, and then you attack again. And if the attack hits, you deal only 1 damage. And then also, Unguided Rockets requires a focus token to attack, and you don't discard this card to perform the attack. It takes up 2 rocket slots, so you guys can see that. And again, you have to have the focus token to attack, and it's 3 dice attack, so it's really not bad. It's a nice option. And then this is nice because if you decide to attack with the Unguided Rocket and it misses with Double Edge, you can go ahead and perform a TLT attack, and if for some reason the TLT misses, you can either use a primary weapon attack or Unguided Rockets again. And then Lightweight Frame, in case you're unfamiliar with it, this basically allows you to roll an additional defense dice if there were more attack dice rolled than you had evade dice available to you. And this is only for TIE ships that have agility 2 or lower. So if you're 3 or higher, you can't use it. So in theory, a Phantom could use it, but really you wouldn't want to do that because there's other much more powerful modifications for it, like the Advanced Cloaking Device or also the Stygian Particle Reactor, which is more useful when you have a ship or a TIE Phantom that is lower pilot skill. Yep. And so yeah, those are, well, and just very quickly, the Signar Specialist. This is the cheapest generic version of the TIE Aggressor. It's 17 points, and it has the same stat line as Double Edge. So about flying this build, like I said, the hardest hitter here is the Phantom. And you need to deploy, first of all, it comes down to like deployment and pilot skill. So as you can see, he's pilot skill 7, and the Veteran Instincts gets him up to pilot skill 9. And so if a player decides to bring like a super race, essentially, meaning like a VI Vader, or you don't really see Wedge, or like for example Poe Dameron, and then they decide to put adaptability on him for pilot skill 10, or Veteran Instincts to make him pilot skill 11. This gets pretty dangerous because at that point, if you're uncloaked, or decloaked, so you can make an attack, those pilots are going to shoot, the higher skill pilots are going to shoot before you. And that makes you a bit vulnerable because you only have 2 agility dice, and you only have 4 health. So you're pretty squishy, and chances are you're going to get hit the first round of the game. And depending on the other pilots, chances are there's a good chance Whisper might get focused down and die right off the bat, which is a problem because he, like with all these cards, he's 44 points. And so you'd be at a severe disadvantage. So that's, and in this game, in a game that I'm going to upload soon, you'll see I use this build, and I was lucky my opponent only brought small ships. If he had larger ships, it would have been very different. But yeah, and so I looked out a bit, and so this build, like, it's very, you don't fly together. Everything has to fly spread out. Kind of like how they are now, so you don't want to fly them like all close together. And one of my first games, I actually flew these guys pretty close to each other. You don't want to do that because if opponents get pretty close to you, then they might be in range 1 of both of them. And if they're in range 1 of both of them, you can't use your TLT, which is only range 2 to 3, which would be a huge problem. So basically, if you're flying this build, you need to be sure to fly separated. Keep your ships pretty spread out so that way the aggressors can cover each other, and then hopefully they can provide a distraction for your opponents from attacking Whisper. And if they're going after Whisper, then remember, you don't have to attack them. You can shoot. You can remain cloaked, which, I mean, isn't ideal because you'd rather attack to have the focus token to help you. But if they're higher pilot skill than Whisper, then I don't think it's worth it. And so it's better just to use your superior agility, or I should say movement, because when you decloak, you use the 2 template. So potentially you can decloak, move forward 2, and then from your regular movement, you can move 4 and then choose a cloak again. So that's essentially you went speed 6. So it's possible to always be out of range of your opponent if you're flying Whisper, and of your opponent flying Whisper. So you can stay out of range of those enemy ships, and then hopefully the aggressors will be able to distract them. And as they take more and more damage from the aggressors, they'll hopefully decide to start chasing them instead of Whisper, and then that creates an opportunity for Whisper to attack them with hopefully up to 12 dice. Yeah, and so those are some of my pointers about how to fly a Phantom, and then also about one of my favorite builds in the game, Whisper with 2 TIE Aggressors. And so why don't you guys let me know what you think of this build down below in the comments, and I'd love to hear your thoughts and theories about how to use a TIE Phantom, if you should even use one at all. Like this build, I love it, but it's not something I bring to a tournament just because of how risky it is to just use the Phantom, because he's just way too squishy, especially in a meta where bombs are super common. It's perhaps not the best, though I do think because you can decloak with your Phantom, you can stay away from where the bomb is going to land. I think it's plausible, but again, it's not a safe bet. And so that's the thing about this build, and why I think you have to be an intermediate to advanced player, is because you have to be a master of positioning with your Phantom to make sure it doesn't get killed. So yeah, thanks for watching. Oh, right, and something I forgot to mention, this build is 98 points, and so you're almost guaranteed to have initiative unless your opponent really wanted it, and they also decide to spend only 98 points, which is pretty rare. And this is so that it guarantees you, or practically guarantees you, that you'll have the initiative. And so that way you can be able to shoot first with Whisper, which is very important. Because if you're shooting first, not only do you have the opportunity to deal damage, but you can use your advanced cloaking device. So that way you can have the optimal defensive advantage, where since your attack will most likely hit, you'll be able to get that focus token, and then also have 4 dice to defend. So that's another reason why initiative and pilot skill is super important in this build. And I've also been playing around with maybe I mentioned this last part, but I just wanted to mention that again. Instead of using unguided rockets with double edge, is to use intensity, just because I feel like I'd end up using it more often, and it helps makes these ships, the TIE Aggressor, more survivable, because with only one shield, it isn't too long before you take critical. You can end up taking critical damage, which in my game with Carl, if you, as you may see, if you decide to watch that video, I end up taking 2 direct hits to my generic TIE Aggressor, which was a bit of a bummer. I mean, I still ended up. Well, I won't spoil it, but it was still like a really great game afterward. And I mean, that is something that happens in this game, is bad luck. So yeah, thanks for watching.